just outside of Binghamton, in a town called Expo. I'm in a very large group optometric practice. We have 2 offices, 4 full-time ODs, 2 part-time ODs, and we are hiring a 5th full-time OD within the next few months. So we're very, very busy primary care optometric practice. The way I got there was sort of a lesson in thinking outside of the box. When I was a first-year student at PCO, there was a program called the clerkship program. I'm not sure if that program exists anymore. But we can earn an elective credit if we spent our first summer working with an optometrist. So I worked in a practice down near Reading, Pennsylvania, a private practice. And I worked, I think, 12 or 13 hours a week, and I did just sort of learn the ropes. I had no experience with optometry at that point. When I started picking my externship sites in my 4th year, that same practice was also one of the available externship sites. So I went to that practice as a 4th-year extern, and when I graduated, I convinced them that they needed to hire me. So much like Dr. Baker, I sort of sold myself to them while I was there as a 4th year, and it was exactly the practice mode that I wanted to be in. To make a real long story short, that didn't work out. The senior doctor's daughter decided she was going to join the ranks of optometry. She started optometry school, and I was told that when she graduated, if she wanted to join the practice, that I probably wouldn't have a job. So in that light, I decided I better look somewhere else. So I ended up working in a corporate practice for quite some time, which was a neutral experience for me. I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't really my passion. I also worked for an ophthalmologist for about 1.5 years, which was a complete disaster. Not that my disclaimer is not all ophthalmologists are a disaster to work for, but this one was. And I ended up coming full circle and joining private optometric practice, which is where I am today. I always wanted to specialize in glaucoma diagnosis and treatment. And when I joined the practice I'm in now, I went to them because I knew I had those skills, and I knew that they needed someone who was trained in glaucoma treatment. I'm not real familiar with the New York State laws. I sort of started my career in Pennsylvania, but I know that in New York State you had to go through additional certification to be able to treat glaucoma. And at the time when I joined, I was certified, but the other doctors in the practice were getting their certification. So they wanted to build their glaucoma practice, and it was a natural step for me to walk in and be able to help them with that. And it's been great. I really enjoy what I do. That's sort of the quick, synopsis of where I've been. As far as advice, the best advice I can give you guys, and you need to all pay attention now. I know I'm the second to last speaker, but you need to do what you're passionate about. In optometry, in any career, you need to have, you need to want to get up in the morning and want to go to work. And that's not unique to optometry. If you do that and you're in a position where you can do that, you will be successful. Whether that success is measured in your quality of life or your income or your amount of vacation time, you will be successful if you're doing something you're passionate about. One of the things that I love about optometry is working with people. Frankly, I've worked in different settings. I've worked in primary care optometry. I've worked with ophthalmologists. Once you see 300 patients with AMD and explain to them all that there's really not much you can do to give them magic glasses and help them see better, you're still looking at eyes, and quite frankly, that part of what I do is interesting because everyone's eyes are different. But what I really have a passion for is working with the people that I work with. I get through my exam and collect the data. I enjoy spending my time counseling my patients. That is my strength, I think, in practice, and what I really enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis. I ask every one of my patients what they do for a living, and I think that's important because we need to know that in order to properly fit them with the proper eyewear and counsel them on their visual needs. About 3 or 4 months ago, I asked a patient, his name was Mike, I said, Mike, what do you do for a living? He was a new patient, I had never seen him before. And Mike said to me, now let me set the stage a little bit. Mike is a probably mid-50s, guy dressed in blue jeans, button-down flannel shirt, long hair, beard, mustache, kind of graying, but well, trimmed. He's very nicely groomed. And I said, what do you do for a living, Mike? And he said, I have the best job that anyone could have. And I said, really? I said, that's kind of unusual, because most of the time when I ask someone what they do for a living, they say, well, I work for this company or I work for that company. No one ever says what they do. Did you ever notice that? If you ask somebody what they do for a living, they're going to say, well, I work for NYSOA. Well, I don't want to know that you work for NYSOA. I want to know what you do for NYSOA. Are you climbing poles? Are you working on a computer? What do you do? This guy said, I have the best job ever. I said, really? I said, well, how did that happen? And he said, well, let me tell you. He said, I worked in an office. I wore a suit for 25 years. He said, I had high blood pressure. I never saw my family. I didn't take vacations. And I hated getting up every morning. I said, really? I said, well, what did you do about it? And he said, well, I liked playing paintball. And he said, one day I woke up and I decided that I could make a living out of playing paintball. And I called my son and I said, look, we're going to start this business. So he started up in the northern part of Pennsylvania, he started a paintball course. To make a real long story short, Mike now is the captain of the United States champion paintball team. He owns a consulting company where he will go all around the country and also into other parts of the world, helping people set up these paintball courses and on how to set them up logistically and to make them challenging. And he does conferences, he goes to paintball conferences and he speaks and all this stuff, and he loves his job. And I will never forget his enthusiasm for what he does. And I went home that night and I said, you know what? That is a wonderful example of thinking outside of the box. Here's someone who is in this job that he does not like, that he's doing because he's tied to it, because he needs the income, and it's all he knows how to do. And he decides one day, let's do something different. And he made it happen, and he's wildly successful, and he loves what he does. So think outside of the box. The beautiful thing about optometry is that there's so many different ways you can practice. There's so many different specialties, different rural setting versus urban setting. Go where you want to go, decide where you want to live, and decide how you want to practice. And if you try a few different things, don't feel like you're stuck there. If you get into a practice and you're there for 4 or 5 years, and you wake up like Mike and say, you know what, this just is not my passion, make something else happen. Your career is not a spectator sport. This is an active participant sport, unless you're Paris Hilton, and I still don't know really how that all happened. But she seems to be spectating more than anything. But make it happen, do what you want to do, and the rest will fall into place. And I think that's the best advice that I can give you. And I look forward to talking to you more. If you have any questions later, feel free to ask. Thanks.
Okay, my lecture in 7 minutes will be a little bit different than most of the other lectures. It'll most likely talk about the business aspects of the bottom line of running an office. My name is Ralph Lamberto. I lease space from the National Vision Center, which is a vision care company and it's located within a Walmart store. So you ask how and why I took the route I did to my current practice modality. Briefly, I must tell you some of my past so that a better picture is painted as to why I work at Walmart. I graduated in 1993 from NOLA Southeastern University in Miami, Florida, which is also part of Fort Lauderdale now, the campus. I began my practice in New Hartford, New York, located in central New York. I worked in a family optical store for about 10 years. During this time, I incorporated Lamberto Eye Associates and worked within the optical as a private entity. All I had for an employee was a secretary. My main income was clinical and eventually added on contact lens sales. I chose in 2003 to separate from this mode of practice and venture into more of a commercial setting. Making this decision was difficult. So now you ask yourself, why did I